Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Shifts and Giggles, where we explore the shifts that move us and the moments that help us tune in a little more deeply. And today we're talking about sound, not just what you hear, but what you feel. My guest, Gary Posner, doesn't just listen to music, he works with sound as a pathway to healing. Gary is a sound therapist, composer, musician, whose career spans decades from touring with Tom Tom Club and composing Emmy Award winning scores for film and television. And somewhere along the way, his path took a powerful shift from performing and producing to helping people slow down, listen differently, and experience sound as something that can truly support healing and presence. So today we're diving into this idea that sound is everything, and maybe everything is sound. Let's get into it. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you. Good to be
It's
here.
so
Good
so
to
good
see
to
you.
reconnect with you.
Me too. I miss our sessions together at Sticks and Stones.
Yeah, me too. They were awesome and powerful. So talk to me about sound. And was there a moment when you realized that it wasn't just about music, that it was about sound and that sound could be healing?
Well, there were definitely moments, but even when I was young, even when I first started playing piano, um, I had met this man who wound up employing me when I was in high school, but he believed or he shared with me that sound was healing. And he talked about certain notes and certain scales and um, and so he showed me certain ways to play the piano that he believed were healing. He was a jazz musician, but he really believed sound was healing. And and I did that, and then got into rock and roll and started doing other things, and then reconnected with him when I was in high school. He was the owner of a recording studio, and he invited me to come work at his studio, and so we he kind of reintroduced me to the idea of sound not only being musical, and he was a film composer and composed other kinds of music, but he was this believer that uh, sound was healing, and he had this big picture of King David, this biblical picture, and David holding this ancient instrument called a lyre, and that
Which is like a harp, right? It's a string
yeah,
instrument.
it's a string instrument. It's an ancient harp, and that in the Bible, they talk about David being able to heal and soothe people with this harp. And so he had it up in the studio. And when he composed, he believed that's what he was doing. He was,
Wow.
and
So you were really introduced to this idea early in your life.
yeah, and I, I, I can't say really early on I really understood it all.
Right.
But when I was in high school, I was kind of getting it, but truthfully, not so interested.
Truthfully, more
Um,
interested in being the cool kid on the block.
right. And my dream was to play in a band like the Beatles and play Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
So, but I worked at his studio, and he was great. He he allowed me to participate in every piece of music he wrote, and he taught me a lot. He taught me everything I know about composing.
Wow.
And so he was always sharing this and always sharing. He was also a good explainer. He would explain why this chord went to that, and he would explain it not so much as musical theory, but feeling, how this
Wow.
made him feel and how he hoped it would make people feel. So when I composed music, I always thought about that. And then went on tour, did left his studio, and played with different bands, but and then years later in 2000, my mother got Alzheimer's, and then everything he taught me kind of came back. And
Wow.
he had told me about these sound practitioner, not sound practitioners, but this man named Dr. Oliver Sacks, who the movie Awakenings is about, and Dr. Sacks's belief that sound was healing, and was studying sound in dementia and sound in Parkinson's, and somebody that this guy, his name was Mike Lobel, my teacher, knew personally. He was a doctor who ran the oncology department at Weill Cornell, and his name was Mitchell Gaynor. And Mitchell Gaynor was this Western physician. He's the head of oncology at Weill Cornell, so he's the man. Like, if you had if you had cancer anywhere in the world, you were sent to him, and he would work out your chemo regimen. And so
Very Western medicine.
very Western. And so these doctors would give lectures, and so Dr. Oliver Sacks would give lectures on sound and 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 Parkinson's and healing. And originally, Dr. Gaynor would give lectures in chemotherapy, and but secretly he had met a Tibetan monk,
Oh, wow.
and my friend and teacher Mike knew about this, and so my teacher Mike, um, would talk to this Dr. Mitchell Gaynor about that. And then Mitchell Gaynor all of a sudden started treating his patients with crystal bowls and Himalayan bowls and things he learned from the monk.
I love
Um,
that.
so he was applying his best Western medicine to the monk, and in turn, the monk introduced him to sound healing.
Wow.
And he became so immersed in it that he never treated any of his oncology patients without treating them with sound as well.
Wow. That's
So,
powerful.
yeah, so you came to Dr. Mitchell Gaynor for a new chemo recipe, and he would talk to you about your condition and your childhood, and where he would think maybe there's an emotional reason, maybe there's this stuff inside that's contributing to your condition, maybe not, and he felt that could only be treated with sound.
Wow.
So he would treat sound. He would treat cancer. He's probably one of the first with sound.
How long
Um,
ago was that?
it was in the late 60s, 70s,
Wow.
80s.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so, um, so Mike would take me to his lectures now that he's doing about sound. And, um, and so when my mother got Alzheimer's, I went back to these doctors, would go to their lectures and um, explain to them that my mother had Alzheimer's, and did they have any suggestions? And they gave me suggestions and possible people to study with. They both recommended this tuning fork practitioner. His name is John Bailew, um, and they felt that tuning forks were really therapeutic because you could actually put them on the body, especially the ones that this man, John Bailew, had invented.
Right.
So,
So it was making the body resonant. It was like
right, these
on
wave,
the body, not just around the body.
right, and not just not just tones, but really this man, this John Bellew invented these tuning forks called auto tuning forks, short for orthopedic, and they were weighted, and so they would vibrate for 3 or 4 minutes rather than maybe 30 seconds. And you could put them on on parts of the body. That might be something for a muscle, but it also might be the spot of where your tumor is.
Right. That's
And
really cool.
yeah, so they suggested things to do with my mom, and so I started doing them, and they suggested um, other things like playlists of favorite songs from certain ages. So I would come to my mother's room armed with at that time there were video cassettes of her favorite musicals and mixtapes of her favorite songs, and we'd sit for about 90 minutes, and I would do some tuning fork stuff with her, and I would do some mixtapes, and we would sing, um, and
How did she
and
respond to that? Like, what did
well,
you witness?
when I started, she was completely nonverbal except for some gibberish.
Wow.
And one of the main problems she was experiencing was night terrors. And so they were giving her medication so she wouldn't scream during the night, so she would sleep through the night. And so these doctors promised that if I did these regimens of sound work, that they would at least uh, she, she would start enjoying herself like anybody else listening to
Right.
music. And so that they felt that the sound could at least relieve her night terrors, and
Wow.
that that Dr. Sachs was working on case studies and hopefully healing Parkinson's and Alzheimer's with sound, but these were these were the good results he was having. He was having patients get off this mood medication. I forgot the
Wow.
name of it. So and and they gave me like a note for her doctor so that he would let me do these things. That it wasn't that, that I wasn't hurting her, and it was completely non-invasive, and that if it didn't do anything, she would at least probably laugh.
And have a nice visit with her son.
Right. And so uh, in about a month, she went from being nonverbal to singing along.
Wow. That's an amazing shift.
Totally amazing. And in the beginning, her doctor kind of like, oh, well, when you stop it, she won't. I said, but she wasn't doing anything, you know.
Exactly.
So she would sing along to Eliza Doolittle
I love it.
in My Fair Lady, and progressively she sang more and more songs. And the doctor was completely right. When the music ended, um, she stopped, and she never. I have two older sisters, and she was only able to recognize my oldest sister, and she recognized her as a child. Like, when she
Wow.
saw my sister Judy, she was like, Judy, how did you get here? You're only 8 years old, or something like that. Did somebody take you? Who took you? Um, so she never got re-recognized me, but she sang along, and she would laugh hysterically when she'd see Eliza Doolittle on the screen if we did it as a video. And so, so for a couple of years, I got to do that with my mom,
That's beautiful.
and it never really changed, like it didn't put her Alzheimer's into remission or
Right.
anything like that. But for a couple of years, she had these good experiences, like just like anybody else, kind of going to music lessons and enjoying their piano lessons or enjoying their
Right,
singing lessons.
exactly.
And she went from being totally nonverbal um, to singing.
Yeah, that's amazing to me.
She never spoke sentences or anything like that. But then, and so eventually my sadly my mom passed, and but I know she enjoyed herself. But um, about 8 years ago, we moved to London, and in London, you could study sound as a real therapeutic practice. Some of these practices were the teachings of these doctors, and some were the research of the Imperial College of London. And they were big believers in sound helping people post operation and pre operation, like them needing less blood and helping cancer patients. Um, whether that being just because it emotionally soothes people or, but so I went back to school there and got a full on sound therapy degree and started working with some hospitals there and working with Alzheimer's patients there.
That's so
And
awesome. Why do you think it is that like Europe is different in that way in terms of accreditation and things like that for sound healing than in the United States?
well, in in America, you can get like a sound certification. You go
Yeah,
to a
but it's not the same as the kind of training you received.
right. I think it's because of socialized medicine that
Mm,
in Europe, whatever works. Like in most countries, med- uh, uh, medical, seeing a doctor is free or almost free, and medication is free or almost free.
right.
So when I was in London, I found that doctors, like if you came with anxiety or, excuse me, PTSD, the first thing they didn't they recommended was not medication, but have you tried yoga? Have you tried meditation? Have you tried sound meditation? What are some of the things you tried? And then if you've, of course, tried them all, they weren't going to deny you medication, but they didn't like to just prescribe a pill.
Right.
And so in London, I started practicing at this chapel. It was called Roslyn Hill, and we did a monthly sound bath there, and it drew lots of veterans and lots of people with lots of issues. Um, and we practiced a very um, gentle and therapeutic form of sound, specifically for people to start releasing, energy that was held in their body. And eventually, I was able to get some therapists to come and, be part of it. Um, but the hospitals
So
in
that's the healing aspect of it is that this or I'm asking, I guess I'm not telling you. Is that the healing aspect of sound? Is that the vibration gets things moving throughout the body,
yeah, I
stimulating
mean,
movement?
like there have been lots of case studies, and but uh, you still can't really say that. And you know, people who teach sound don't want you to look at it as Western medicine. It's not like this bowl cures anxiety and this bowl
Right.
cures stress, or this is a bowl for this chakra. And it's really that, the science of sound is that these bowls, whether they be crystal bowls or Tibetan bowls, um, can give off really low vibrations. And scientifically, our brain likes to entrain or or follow whatever it hears. That's why, like when you hear music you like, you get goosebumps, and when you're on a treadmill, you like to have fast music playing because your brain's like, okay, fast music, I'm okay, I'm gonna run a little. And if you were playing a slow waltz and trying to run, that probably wouldn't.
It
um,
works so well.
yeah, I mean, maybe you might like Strauss, or you might like other composers, and you know you know as my friend Warren likes to say, typist choice. But you'd probably want fast music for running or aerobics, and slow music to stretch. And so sound is really like that. When you start sound baths, you usually start playing bowls of any kind to create really low and slow vibrations. And the brain is vibrating normally about 13 cycles per second. And then it hears these bowls, and it hears maybe things going at 10 cycles per second, and then maybe 9 and 8. The brain is like, I like that. And it just starts aligning. And then all of a sudden, depending the way you play or the different bowls, the bowls might be generating 1 cycle per second or 2 cycles per second. And then and then if your brain is really like, I like this, I'm gonna follow this, you go into what scientifically they might call a delta or a theta state. And you might doze off, you might feel like you're in a daydreaming state, um, but you're usually in some kind of altered state.
I
And
love that. Your
and
sound baths are so awesome.
and well, I appreciate that. And so you might full on fall asleep because that's what your body needs, because you haven't been sleeping that well, and now your body is so relaxed, you're just snoring away and you're asleep. And but what's great about sound, different than other meditations, is our bodies are always listening. You know,
Right,
from 18 weeks in the womb till we pass, our bodies hear sound. And so whether you're totally gone, asleep, or you're just in some kind of altered state where you're totally relaxed, and your body is hearing. So so these bowls kind of keep you there. And so I try to follow this one kind of therapeutic sound practice that I learned in London, where you start people off getting them into that state with bowls, and then you use gongs or things that cause a lot of vibration, causes the water in our body to really vibrate. So now that you're totally relaxed and maybe have lost some inhibitions, or not inhibitions, but lost some body armor, you're open to these instruments like gongs to start vibrating the water in your body. And that's where we hold a lot of our stress. So
right.
when these gongs play, if you're kind of going along and following along in the sound bath, that's what's probably happening to you. The water in your body is vibrating, and surface stress is going away. Kind of like a massage therapist, and
Right.
and just putting their hands around your body, removing stress. And sometimes they feel a knot, and the gongs sometimes feel a sonic knot. Sometimes that's called a trigger point, and it just gets released. And so sometimes at a sound bath, you might get very emotional. And it's because this energy that you didn't even know what you were holding on to for years and years just gets released. In a massage session, usually the massage therapist would say, "Oh my God, I feel a knot here. It's a big one. Do you want me to release it?" It might be a little painful, but and so you have the opportunity to say maybe not, or sure, go ahead. I'll hold on. With in sound, with the gongs, they don't ask. But in the way I do sessions, it's a carryover from the bowls. The gongs are waved; they're not hit, so it's not like there's going to be this anything really loud or anything that's going to cause your body
Sudden or
stress.
startling, right?
Yeah. So in these sessions, so these gongs are waved, and they usually make the sounds of ocean waves, and then they're relieving and they're trying to get rid of as much um, surface stress as they can, and then next in the session would come a crystal bowl, and traditionally crystal bowls are very healing and they're very soothing, and they kind of bring the body back to its not quite its waking state, but no more vibrations. Crystal bowls don't have harmonics, so they tend to bring the body um, back to really back to the state it was in, before the sound bath.
Right.
Um, and you're not quite awake yet, but now your body has probably stopped its motion. And then when I lived in Africa, I was exposed to this practice called shamanic percussion. And this shaman in Senegal uh, taught me how to bring people out of altered states smoothly back into the room, he would say.
Come back, come back.
And so I will start playing this different kind of percussion. You can use almost any kind of shakers or bells or things,
Rain
and
sticks.
rain sticks, koshi chimes, bolo chimes. But I follow the sequence he taught me to slowly bring people from their altered state back to their waking state. Um,
And
he's
you do it very smoothly.
well, I had some really good teachers, and hopefully, after that, hopefully you've been brought to a very slow state. Now you're back into the room, and the hope is that some of you let go what you no longer needed,
Right,
and now you have room. And so it was particularly great in our sessions because there were different kinds of meditation. There
right,
was, and so um, so people let go in different ways, and then the sound was kind of a wash rinse cycle almost. It was their final, okay, you've gone into different places, and now you'll go as deep as you can, and now you'll be brought back, and you'll really be able to let go of what you no longer need, and now go forth into the world. And
and carpe diem, baby.
right, and in London, I didn't have to pay close attention to this because people took the tube home usually, or a bus. People didn't tend to drive. And then when I got to Connecticut, I realized at the end of sound baths, you really had to make sure that
They're grounded.
people are grounded and really back into the room because they're probably going to drive at least 15 minutes, but maybe an hour. So,
Exactly.
so they really need to be
Make sure
present.
they're back in solidly in their bodies.
Right. So I changed some of the way I practiced in Connecticut, the ending, to not leave people in this, oh, I'm feeling really woozy, I'm feeling good, and like,
In the
and
liminal state.
yeah. So but yeah, I don't know what just took us to that, talking about sound bath, but anyway.
Well, your sound baths are amazing. Are you doing sound baths in Portugal?
I'm starting to. I'm my I realize that the way I practice is completely different than almost any practitioner in Portugal, because in Portugal Portugal has really been experiencing a spiritual renaissance, um, and retreats are very common. There's a retreat somewhere in Portugal probably every week of the year.
Wow.
Um, and people um, really go to, you know, to release their work week or let go of things, whether they're just experiencing some kind of new trauma or old trauma. And so um, there are all kinds of spiritual practitioners, and it's so common. And sound practitioners, the lineage of sound here, I think, um, uh, is more shamanic than I'd say my lineage is. Um,
Interesting.
my my initial experience of sound were probably closer to what goes on here, you know, kind of a musician improvising. But but after studying in London, I really loved that I could get repeatable results. Like
Mm,
if I followed these, because they made us do case studies for a year, and
wow.
and so we really had to follow these protocols. And when you see repeatable results, you're like, wow, that's kind of amazing. I mean, and so so I'm trying slowly to introduce that here. Um, and I'm doing something called a spring reset now, like a nervous system reset, where I'm using the protocol we learned about strengthening the immune system um, and relieving stress and really finding a way to remind the nervous system that everything is okay, nothing to worry about. Um,
That's beautiful. Are you doing online sound baths?
I had to stop because the place we're living is
Oh.
undergoing all kinds of construction, and a gym opened underneath our apartment. So 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 I could only do it during Portuguese lunchtime uh, because everything stops in Portugal for like 12:30 to 2, like
I
nothing
love it.
goes on. So I was trying to do it then, but since the gym opened, um, people well, I get the music from the spin classes, but also um, the way they built the gym, if anybody even drops a tiny barbell, it sounds like somebody has hit a sledgehammer in our apartment. So
So
I
you
did,
have your own interesting sound bath going on over there.
yeah, so I did a couple, but then it was hard to predict. Like, and I tried to get the gym to put up a sign like, please don't drop your weights. And they said nobody drops their weights. And then I secretly took some videos of people dropping their weights and said, yes, they do. Um, but now the building we're living in, like they're fixing the cracks in the sides of the walls and they're painting it. So,
Yeah, so it's making life challenging at the
yeah,
moment to do
but
the.
we're to do the sound baths. But it looks like we're moving by June 1st, and so I'm hoping to start again. So I'm
Well, that's
hoping,
awesome.
yeah.
So, how can people learn more about your work and you and all of
Um,
that?
the best way is to follow me on Instagram. Which is my Instagram handle is Sound is Everything.
Sound is
Um,
everything.
Sound is Everything. I do also have a website, simply-sound.com. Um, but the Instagram is more immediate. I also post daily affirmations and sometimes daily meditations that are either based on my work or the different teachers I studied with. Um, One of my teachers passed away this year right before we moved to Portugal, and I told him I was going to do an extended tour of Europe. I didn't tell him I was going to move here, and because actually we didn't know that at the time. Because he said, "Okay, in in addition to the sound, or instead of it, you don't need instruments anymore. What I want you to do is you're a great synthesizer of different teachers, so I'm commissioning you. Your job is to put together my work and all the teachers you've studied with, or, and share that with people.
I love that. What a beautiful blessing to you.
Yeah, he just said, we've known each other about 10 years, and that go forth and share my work and share the other teachers you work with and find a way to bring it all together. And he said, and you always have to remind people that they are the lights of the world. So that has to be the center of your work, and somehow find a way to share my work. And he studied with this great teacher. Her name was Hilda Charlton, and her work is only just starting to get uh, published. She was a teacher in the 60s mainly, and all of these teachers who are teaching now were part of her weekly study group. She used to teach in the basement of St. John's the Divine. I mean, I never
Oh,
got to
wow.
meet her. But all of these teachers would meet up with her every Thursday. Um, she was actually a dancer in New York and on Broadway, and a modern dancer. She wound up going to India on a dance trip, and then lived there for 10 years, and wound up meeting some of the great gurus and became a student of all of them. And then they sent her back to America to teach.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've had quite an incredible life, Gary.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
met a lot of people.
I've luckily got to meet some of the most amazing people.
Well,
So
and you're an amazing person also.
thank you.
So I'm so glad we've reconnected. I'm so excited for what's going to happen in your life in the upcoming years, and I'm hoping to bring a retreat to Portugal.
Yeah, as soon as we reconnected, I was thinking about that. I mean, they're all over, but a friend of mine owns a retreat center in the south of Portugal where I've done a lot of work, and it's under construction. And as in typical Portuguese fashion, it was supposed to be finished a year ago, and then 6 months ago. But June 1st, it will be finished finally.
Wow.
So it was tiny. It used to be very tiny, but now they'll have about 20 rooms. So I think some of their rooms hold 4 people, so it will be able to hold
Oh,
lots
it's
of people.
big.
Yeah. And the rooms are amazing, and the the feeling there. It's attached to a permaculture farm, a
Oh,
permaculture,
cool.
and so you go there and you really feel this sense of regeneration. So
Well, that's awesome. Well, we'll have to do something together in Portugal. I look
yeah,
forward to that.
me
Always
too.
an honor to be with you, Gary.
You too. Great to see you. Thank you for reconnecting. Um,
Yay. So
and
everybody stay tuned for our next guest, and we will see you all soon.